love of my heart, what was the movie that we went to go see?
So we are starting out our podcast adventure and our quest. This is the hard part of doing this non-scripted. I have no great lead-in. We went and saw Knock at the Cabin.
Yes.
We went and saw Knock at the. I was trying so hard to sound, oh, I've got this scripted out after just saying we're not scripted, and here we go. So Knock at the Cabin, the latest from M.Knight Shyamalan.
Yes, Mr. Shyamalan. Now, okay, I think before we get into the movie, we need to have a little. What is your take on M. Night Shyamalan?
I am not a fan. I am not a fan. I saw The Sixth Sense. I thought, okay, that was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen The Sixth Sense once. I have never had the desire to see it again. And since then, literally everything he has turned out that I have seen has been some variation on atrocious. Several of his films have made my worst of list for the years. Split, Old. Oh my God. What he did to The Last Airbender, The Happening, The Arrival. No, not Arrival.
The Village?
The Village, which The Village was interesting, but it was, yeah. The one with Mel Gibson and the aliens that choose to invade, but they're allergic to water, and this super advanced race didn't think to maybe research the planet that they were about to invade to see if poison didn't fall from the sky periodically. Just I have just never been a fan of his. I feel like he had one success, and that was it for his talent.
Now, see, I am kind of the opposite. I saw The Sixth Sense. I somehow went into it and didn't get spoiled on it, and so I got to have the twist ending, and it kind of spurred me into the kind of supernatural, psychological thriller horror genre that I really love. That's one of my sweet spots, and so. And you're not a horror guy to begin with.
No, not primarily. I don't mind it. I don't mind a good horror movie. I've gotten better over the past couple of years, but it's not my go-to genre. It's not my genre of choice.
I do love a good horror movie, like psychological horror specifically, and so The Sixth Sense was right up my alley, and I liked The Village. Then they started to go downhill. And so basically since then, I have been trying to find something that M. Night Shyamalan does to redeem himself, so that I can enjoy his movies again. Okay, so this one specifically, Knock at the Cabin, based on a book, and the screenplay was written by M. Night Shyamalan and
two other people.
And they adapted this book, which is, I believe, called The Cabin at the End of the World.
Yeah, which real quick, I got to say, I like that title a lot better than Knock at the Cabin. Because the title, I'm going off on a tangent here. The title feels incomplete. Like I keep wanting to call it Knock at the Cabin Door.
Right.
So it feels like it's cut off.
And it really does feel, it implies it is more like a strangers type of movie.
Yeah.
Rather than what it really is, which is an apocalyptic drama, really. Or I guess a pre-apocalyptic drama.
Yeah.
So to summarize, you want to summarize the movie for us a little bit here, my darling?
Okay, so the film centers around a couple who are having a relaxing weekend at the cabin with their daughter when 4 strangers arrive, take the family hostage, and inform them that they have been selected by some unknown being or power to make the most difficult choice a family can make, and they have to decide that one of them has to die. And the rest of the family has to make the choice and perform the murder in order to prevent the world from ending.
Right, and they can't commit suicide. They can't do it themselves. It has to be
someone else. One member of the family has to kill the other.
Right.
in order to prevent the supposed apocalypse. And as the film progresses, there's this back and forth about, is this real? Is this not? Are these people insane? Is the world really ending? And yeah, that's the general breakdown of the plot.
Right. And so the actors, let's talk about the actors here. Um of course we have Dave Bautista as Leonard, who is would you say the ringleader
He's the leader of the four.
people?
Yeah,
I think we can go ahead and I don't think it's spoiling anything to say that these are representation of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. So I would call Leonard the leader of the four horsemen here.
yeah.
And then Rupert Grint, of course,
Ron Weasley.
Ron Weasley is there with a actually really good, interesting turn.
Yeah,
He did really well.
yeah. He was. Yeah.
We don't really see a lot of Rupert Grint in the
No,
world.
but he does. He does a lot of Shyamalan. Like he does. One of his shows on Apple TV.
Right.
He's in. So
I think basically Rupert Grint decided that he was just gonna do whatever the heck he wanted.
I mean, he's got the money.
Right.
If you got the money and you can do that,
Like I've heard he's got an ice cream truck.
he does.
And,
Yeah,
a farm.
I was just watching a video of him answering questions online, and that was one of them. Do you really own an ice cream truck? And he said, "Yeah, I do." So
Right.
it just seems like a really laid back guy. Yeah.
And then we've got Abby Quinn and Nikki Amuka Bird as the other horsemen. And they are very. You want to when they start coming in and they have these weapons, you really want to believe that they're crazy people, but they're really these strong, empathetic characters. So, and then of course the couple we have Ben Aldrich, who was just in
I just saw him in Spoiler Alert with Jim Parsons, and I don't know what it is with Ben Aldrich. I guess when you find a niche, you play it, because this is the second time I've seen him as part of a leading same-sex couple, and he's always the jerk part. He is always the jerk guy in the relationship. You're like, God, will you just take it down a notch? Calm down, dude. But yeah, he was.
Well, and then Jonathan Groff of everybody's sweetheart gay best friend is the other half of the couple.
Mm-hmm.
I love Jonathan Groff. I love seeing him in things. He was in this great TV show called Mindhunter about the beginning of the behavioral analysis unit of the FBI. Just love Jonathan Groff. And then their daughter is played by a newcomer, Kristen. I want to say Sue. It's spelled Cui. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. I haven't been able to find anywhere that I could hear it.
So if you're listening and we mispronounced your name, we're
terribly sorry.
But thanks for listening.
She was incredibly talented. So, okay, so those are our leads.
Yeah.
So, there was a few. Actually, not a
no.
big
It was.
cast at all.
I mean, any other cast members were like news reporters or things like that. These were the primary cast. These are the people we spent the majority of the film with. And I think, let's just get right into it. I think the strength of this film was the performances.
I would agree with that.
It was definitely, they had, and with one major standout, and to me, this was Batista's movie.
Oh, for sure.
I would go so far as to say this was his star turn.
Well, see, I would say this was the completion of his star turn, as in you really started to see what Dave Bautista could do as an actor in The Glass Onion. And then this is just being such a 180 from that character, just really emphasize what he can do as an actor.
This film, to me, and I said this when we were leaving, is that this film is to Dave Bautista what Logan Lucky was to Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
Where he has a screen persona. We've seen him as Drax, in the Marvel movies, and a couple of other things, smaller pictures here and there that he's gotten a lot of praise for. And yeah, he did well in the Glass Onion, but that was still very close to his
Wrestling persona.
to yeah, his wrestling persona, or kind of Drax on steroids kind of thing, or Drax on cocaine kind of thing.
It's Drax if Drax was played by Joe Rogan.
Yes, exactly. But this is the film where he is really showing that he is an actor,
Right.
and a pretty good one.
Oh, like by far, hands down, best actor to come out of the wrestling world.
Yes, by miles.
Like I think
Miles.
that Dwayne Johnson has some good qualities, and he had, like, I love a Dwayne Johnson movie.
But
And
Dwayne Johnson is a movie star.
right, he has a niche.
Yeah, and he's good at it.
This is, I mean, Dave Bautista is an actor.
Yes,
Yeah,
and you hang this movie on his performance, and it's the right decision because
right.
he is spectacular. He's
this big bulking guy. Like, he's huge. Like, it's so, you cannot emphasize enough how huge he is. His thighs are tree trunks, you know? And he's covered in these tattoos, and he's got this close cut haircut, and this voice, this deep gravelly voice. And he's portraying, he is a teddy bear. Like, this character is so gentle and so sweet.
Yeah, and like we said this before too. Is like, if you were just making a straight up horror movie,
Right.
you were making a straight up slasher film, you could see him as the monster. You could see him as the killer, the unstoppable, Freddy, Jason, whatever, coming after you. And this is where we have to give M. Knight some directorial praise. That image of him is exactly what you want for this movie, because you want this, like you say, this big, hulking, scary persona. And then when you actually talk to him, he's not that. He is a sweet,
catching grasshoppers and talking about empathy, and I mean, he's just the most sweethearted man.
and he is everything you need him to be. When he needs to be tough and scary, he is that. When he needs to be calm and he's frightening that way, he is that. When he needs to be loving and gentle and caring, he is that. When you feel, I think, more for him in this movie than any other character that there is, and there's just such a humanity
Right.
in his character.
Well, and that's what makes it interesting, I think, is that you spend the movie thinking these could be very bad guys, right? Like, the horsemen are trying to save the world. That is their mission statement. They're trying to save the world. And if they are right, they're the good guys. And if they are wrong, they are the bad guys. And if they don't actually believe in what they're saying, then they're the bad guys. But you spend this movie not wanting Leonard to be the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just keep hoping something's going to happen where he gets to be the good guy.
Yeah. Or that he gets to be okay, or
right,
or something like that.
Or they all get to be okay.
Yeah.
Really the only one who's a jerk in that situation is the Rupert Grint
Yeah,
character.
Rupert Grint, yeah.
So, okay, and what about the other actors? What do you
This is where things get tricky. This is where we start leaning into criticism. I think the other actors do an okay job.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other actors do a decent job, but they are bogged down by the M.Knightness.
Yeah, the movie ended, and we both looked at each other and had the same thought, which was, I loved everything about this movie except
the direction.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, and this is not to say that I think the only other person for whom this statement is not true is the little girl.
Right. She was awesome.
Who does an amazing job, again, for someone with no experience or very little experience. And she and Dave Bautista play off each other very well. The entire opening scene is just the two of them.
Right.
And so she does a pretty fantastic job. All the other actors, and again, this is not against the actors. I think the actors did a pretty good job with what they had to work with. but in terms of the writing of it and the directing, they become very Shyamalanized. Where they become very stereotypical. The dialogue, the weaknesses in the dialogue become very apparent.
Well, and yeah, stuff that sounds sincere coming from Leonard sounds melodramatic and saccharine coming from the other
Yeah,
characters because they're acting more melodramatically, whereas Dave Bautista is somehow managing to be more natural.
which again you would not think coming from a wrestler, who's giving promos. I hate to get my revenge. And now he's just very,
Yeah.
very calm. But yeah, he somehow manages to avoid that. But I feel like the rest of them can't help but just fall into that
Well,
trap.
I would have to like there are some very sweet and calm moments. The part where Abby Quinn, one of the horsemen, is talking to the little girl as she eats breakfast, and there are times when they are talking about their plight and what's going on that they do seem very sincere, and they have like tears in their eyes, and they're very, they're emoting pretty well. But it crosses a line to saccharine at some point.
Yeah, and I feel that's just the lack of the ability of the director. And as we know, he's one of the screenwriters. You can pretty much tell when he was writing the script.
Right. Like, I think the thing that saved this movie was that it was adapted and he had other people reining him in on it.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully. Now, as far as the rest of the direction goes, like, I just feel like at this point in his career, M. Night Shyamalan should not still be shooting movies as if he is a film student.
Yeah.
Like
the film, it is horribly directed.
Like all of the ultra close up scenes.
There is so much, and I'm sure that there's probably a reason for this. I'm sure he had a justification in his mind, but one of the things that he did so often was when two people are having a conversation, he very rarely shows them in the same shot.
Right.
It's a close up of the one person's face and then a close up of the other person's face, and it just keeps cutting back and forth. I made an independent movie with my high school students, and whenever there was a situation where somebody couldn't make it to filming that day, that's what we would do. We'd film one person talking, and then later, like weeks later, we'd film the other person doing the responses.
Right.
But that was done out of necessity. Somebody wasn't there. So did people just not show up for filming that day? And he had to keep switching things around. I don't get it. I don't know what all that was.
I do think it hampered some things, like not letting the relationship, not really letting us see the bond in the marriage of Jonathan Groff and Ben Aldrich. Like, you don't really get a chance to see them interacting in a way that they're falling in love. The concept is that they're chosen for this because of their
family's great love.
Right, but you don't really get to see that grow. You see why the Jonathan Groff character is he's got a really kind of pure love, but you don't see that with the Ben Aldrich character.
The thing about it is that at just about every turn with this film, there are opportunities. You can see what they were going for, and it's interesting what they were going for. For example, the idea of the end of the world, the fate of humanity resting in the hands of a same-sex couple, a couple that would have reason to not have a lot of love for humanity.
True.
Or the current status quo. So why? And like I said, the Ben Aldrich character makes that point. Why should we raise our hands to help to save the world when the world has basically condemned us?
Right.
So that's an interesting thing to look at. It's interesting to see the two characters in terms of, like I say, the Jared Groff character is much more sympathetic. Jonathan Groff. See, this is her thing. She knows all these people's names. I'm the worst one with names. Whereas, Ben Aldrich He had problems coming out to his parents. He got beat up in a bar.
Right.
There are all these things that you understand that color his worldview, but they are handled in such a melodramatic, broad stroke kind of thing.
Right.
And I think that is the problem with a lot of this. It's in the broad strokes. M. Night Shyamalan paints in broad strokes. He does not have the discipline to do things with subtlety. Let me ask you this question. Did you ever believe in the course of this film that the world was not coming to an end?
No, there wasn't enough tension built that you could believe that they were making it all up, or it was some kind of scam, or some kind of delusion, shared delusion. Since it was M. Night Shyamalan, you always figured it was worst case scenario.
Yeah. And that's the problem. This film would have been spectacular
Mhm.
in the hands of a director with a much more subtle touch. And it's ironic. We were talking about, the very first drive home review on YouTube was
10
10
Cloverfield.
Cloverfield Lane. And all through this movie, I thought Dan Trachtenberg, who directed that movie, he just directed Prey this
Mhm.
past year, he has a much more subtle touch
Right.
and could have done some great things. And you really could have been, as an audience, could have been so tense going, is this real? Is this BS? Are these people crazy? Are they telling the truth? And you could have really built the tension up, but he does not have that discipline.
Well, I'm always going to say that any horror movie should be directed by Jordan Peele. So.
Yeah, you know,
I think Jordan Peele could have done a pretty good job
um,
of it
I don't know.
too.
And that's not to disgrace Jordan Peele, because Jordan Peele is a fantastic director and storyteller. I've never seen him do a film, a one room
Right.
kind of
I
film.
know he needs to do it now.
He likes to use a much more sprawling canvas.
Although Nope was almost like it's a one field kind of.
It's a
film.
one town kind
Yeah.
of film, but not a group of people trapped in one room.
Right.
Like this one.
All right. So, any other thoughts? And do you
Oh,
wrapping up thoughts?
I
So overall, do you feel like you were disappointed?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I have to add that I haven't said already, and I don't think there is. I think everything that there is to say. That's one of my downfalls, is I do tend to repeat myself a lot. I don't think there's much more to say. So I think what we've done, and I think if you're good with this, I think this is a great way to kind of keep it up. Our grading system, because every critic needs some kind of grading system.
Right.
We both have education backgrounds.
Right.
So we always went with final grade, and I like the final grade, not just because of our teaching background, because there's such a wide range.
Right.
It's not just this was good or this was bad, thumbs up, thumbs down. There's
many thumbs.
There's a scale, So for those who are new to us, that is how we choose to kind of give our final thoughts and final rating of the movie. So I will turn it over to you, my love. What is your final grade for Knock at the Cabin?
This one was kind of difficult to judge, because I think it does have a lot of good points. But like you said, you never had enough tension built to wonder if they were crazy or if the apocalypse was actually happening. And like, I can only take so many. What are they called when they're tilted?
Dutch angles. Thank you for reminding me of that. I'll talk about that in a second. Thank you.
I can only take so many Dutch angles before it starts to give me a migraine. But I'm gonna have to say a B minus. Which, considering the last M. Night Shyamalan movie we saw, I gave it an F.
Yeah, same.
But I think that the acting in this, the character work in this, brings it up. So yeah, B minus.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of the Dutch angles. I forgot about that. Yeah. You know what? I'm not going to get into it. I'll just say that, that angle became famous for use during the Batman, the Adam West Batman show. But at least there they had a reason for using it. I don't think
Right.
there was a reason. But anyway, all right. So mine, I am actually going to be a little harsher
Surprise,
than you
surprise.
are. You know, originally I thought I was going to be nicer, but this is one of the reasons why the spur of the moment ratings can have their downside. Originally, I thought I was going to be nicer to this film, but I just don't think I can. But I'm going to be kind of generous, and I'm going to say a C plus.
Okay.
And that C is almost completely on the back of the performance of Dave Bautista.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was one of. I mean, it's only January, but that was a fantastic performance. It solidifies him as a real player in Hollywood. That this guy is not just a comic relief. That he can do a lot of things, and with smart direction and good scripts, he can be a real impact player. Do I think he'll ever be up there accepting an Academy Award? I don't know, but this film is definitely a strong argument for it. Everything else about this film, anything else about this film that I thought was good, there's always an asterisk right next to it going, but. And when there's that many, I have to drop the grade down. I don't. What really aggravates me about this movie is that this is very conducive, or not conducive. This is very typical of M. Night Shyamalan's directing career. He makes crappy movies, then he makes one movie that is barely not crappy, that everybody goes, "Oh my God, he's back!"
Yeah.
And then for some reason, there's like this mass delusion that he's actually talented. And then he releases another old, and we're right back where we started.
Maybe we are all living in M. Night Shyamalan's simulation experiment.
Maybe. I mean, I can't think of another reason he keeps getting work.
Also, it's February, not January.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Wow. Okay. Wow. All right. Fair enough.
But
January flew by for us.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So I'm not as disappointed as I was. I want to see Dave Bautista in a million more movies.
Yep.
I love you, Jonathan Groff, and fully support your career. And other than that, I'm glad I'm not one of the horsemen.
Yeah, me too. That one more thing before we wrap up. So that was something that confused me.
Okay.
So they were the four horsemen, but not the four horsemen: war, death, pestilence, and plague.
No, that they were standing in for the four aspects of humanity, but I don't know why. I've studied a lot of religions and a lot of history. I'm not entirely sure what spectrum that they were getting this four aspects of humanity from. There was malice, healing, guidance, and one more, caring,
nurturing, I think.
Yes, nurturing. So I'm not.
Yeah, so that was a thing that was really weird. I don't know where that came from, or if they were representing the aspects of humanity, then that's what they should have said in the movie. They represent, and not they're the four horsemen. Because that's
well, I don't think they ever say they're the four.
They horsemen.
Do they?
Yeah, right there at the end.
Oh.
Groff says it. He says that because he lays it out and lists out their character. It says they're the four horsemen. It's like that's not, but for every short term,
well, yeah, the biblical four horsemen.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's another thing. So anyway, so there we go. All right. So anything else?
I think that's about it.
All right. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you for coming along with us, and we hope you enjoyed this. We're gonna keep doing it. We'll get a formula down. We'll be a little bit better at this going forward. But thanks a lot. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, drive safe, and we'll see you at the movies.
Hi, this is Rebecca.
And this is Brandon.
We are a couple of theater nerds who love movies and love talking about movies.
So join us on our drive home as we review the movies we have just watched.
And that we will inevitably disagree on. So
this is the Drive Home Review Podcast.
So this is our first podcast. We're going to do a little introductions of ourselves. I am Rebecca, and my partner here is Brandon.
That's me.
We are partners in podcast and partners in life.
Mm-hmm.
And my handsome, loving boyfriend here started the Drive Home Review podcast in 2016, so 7 years ago now.
Yeah. It's been literally a long ride.
So let's talk about that process. How did you get started? What was the impetus for this?
Well, there's a lot of things that went into it. I've always loved movies and always loved talking about movies. I'm a theater nerd. I'm an actor, director, playwright, so I always have a lot of opinions about movies. And back in
That is an understatement.
yeah, and back in 2016, that was when like the YouTube movie reviewer format was booming, and you had people like the Nostalgia Critic and Brad Jones and
Movie Bob.
Movie Bob, Todd in the Shadows, Lindsay Ellis, and I was a big fan of all of them. And my best friend and I had actually always wanted to do a movie review show, and at the time, so this is about mid 2016, I was unemployed. I was single, living alone in my apartment, and just we were on spring break at the time. I was teaching homeschool classes, so I was like 1 day a week, and just kind of feeling just very morose and just needed to do something. And I finally decided I want to do this, and so I did. So I went to the movies, and the very first drive home review was a 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Right.
And I just took my laptop. I knew nothing about how to do any of this, and watched the movie. Came out, set my laptop up on the seat next to me, turned the camera on, hit record, and reviewed the movie as I drove home. Hence the name Drive Home Reviews. And it just kind of branched out from there. And again, that was back in 2016. So
Do you know how many you've done?
oh my God, no. Like at least 60 some per year.
Right.
And that's not including editorials. During the lockdown, of course, we had to do some other things. So I did like Forgotten Gems, where I talked about whatever movies I had on my DVD wall, Series the Series, Drive Home Reviews meets Abbott and Costello. So, it really became a huge part of my life and a huge part of my personality, because that was what I did for fun. That was my stress reliever. Go to the movies and talk about them on the drive home. So,
Right.
so it just became something I loved to do, and just had a great deal of fun doing. And over the course of that period, I had a couple of friends of mine who did co-hosting duties. Most notably, our mutual friend Lindley
Yes.
did a bunch of them, and then during the pandemic, that was when you and I.
Yeah, we reconnected during the pandemic, and I was in the process of a divorce. And I mean, the pandemic was happening. And so, we had a lot of stress going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started watching these. We've known each other for almost 20 years.
Yep.
We met when I was going to theater school, and you had just graduated from theater school, but we're still
Yeah.
hanging around.
Yeah.
So being king of the theater school. And we met in the costume shop, actually.
Yeah.
While you were in 1776 and I was a newbie, so I was sewing buttons on coats for 1776.
So then obviously our relationship started, our romantic relationship, and then you kind of became the primary co-host whenever we would visit each other, or we would.
Yeah, at that point we were living about 1,000 miles away from each other.
Yeah.
So we would visit on spring breaks or in the summertime, or
Mhm.
at Christmas time, and we would always try to at least see one movie
Yeah.
and do a review together.
Yeah, and because one of the things that drew us together romantically is our love of viewing and talking about various forms of performance art, movies, TV shows, plays. So that was kind of a natural point of connection for us, and so you kind of became, and our tastes are similar enough that
we can enjoy some of the same things.
and different enough that we can have interesting and spirited debates about certain things. So, um, so long story short, which is kind of a weird statement, when the move finally happened and I moved from Tennessee down here to Iowa to so that you and I could, really start our life together, the conversation was had and decided that, what we wanted to do with drive home reviews and what the next step for it. I loved being on YouTube. I still love being on YouTube, but it was not the best format for what I was doing. uh Again, it was just me driving and there was nothing else. I didn't intersperse cut to the movie or anything like that. In recent years I started splicing in little sound bites from Family Guy and American Dad and Mystery Science Theater and things like that. But I mean, virtually it was just me driving around and talking. And I started to win little stuffed animals out of the claw machine. I used to put them on the passenger seat next to me. So it was not a very visually interesting.
Right. And on top of that, now that we live in a very small town, the drive home from the movie theater is only going to take about half a minute.
Well, that never bothered me. That never bothered me because like I drove around in circles.
Yeah.
Like the movie theater where I was living at the time was literally down the street. It took me 15 minutes to get home. And I'm so long-winded. At first I thought, oh great, this means I'll do a really succinct wrap up of the movie. It's like, no, I started driving around for like 20-30 minutes to get everything I had to say out. But anyway, so the decision, we kind of decided that we wanted to give this a step. We wanted to give this a chance and take it from the YouTube platform to a podcast.
Yes, I am a podcast junkie.
Yes.
Like absolute, like that is what I don't really listen to music. That is what I listen to when I'm getting ready in the morning, when I'm driving my commute, when I'm cleaning the kitchen, I listen to podcasts. And so I kind of encouraged him to look into this option.
Yep. So that's what we're doing here. We are taking that next step and seeing how this platform works for us and what we want to do. I'll probably still do some independent editorials and things for YouTube. Some of these might find their way on there to get some advertising, but we want to see how this works as a podcast.
Right. And it's what works for our family at this point in time. Now,
Yeah.
this is still we're maintaining the integrity of Brandon's original vision in that we are doing this off the cuff. We have a little bit of a guideline for what we want to say at the beginning, like in a section like this, but the reviewing aspect of it.
Yeah. So basically when I started, and as we've kind of gone into this iteration of it, there are two major underline, I guess you call them mission statements that we try to follow. And number one is that, this is the goal. This is off the cuff.
Right.
These are our immediate
reactions.
Yeah, immediate reactions to the films that we have just seen. Sometimes, depending on scheduling, maybe there's a day in between, but we're going to try to get these done as soon as we see the movie or as close to it, because we want to keep that kind of raw emotion. We're not really planning anything out. We haven't, which when I was doing it on YouTube was a good thing and a bad thing. It had its ups and downs. A gut reaction can be good, but it can also, upon reflection, you can kind of go, well, maybe that wasn't as bad as I said. So we're going to try to keep these still very spontaneous, off the cuff, just what we're thinking and feeling in that moment about that movie. The other thing, the other mission statement that we like to try to adhere to is, of course, we're going to go see the big things.
Right.
Those are the bread and butter. Everybody's going to have their take on the next Marvel movie or the when DC starts up again, everyone, the big movies that everybody sees, of course, we're going to see. But one of the things that I really loved doing with the original incarnation, and one of the things that I feel has been beneficial to me, is that having to try to see a movie a week,
right,
means that you're gonna sometimes see the things that nobody has really heard of.
Right.
and that nobody has really been talking about, and that there haven't been a lot of reviews for. And I have found that to be the most rewarding aspect of doing these, is because I've seen movies that I might have otherwise completely ignored or missed, and I have found some really wonderful, outstanding films.
You've also found some real stinkers that
And
way.
you find some real crappy films.
Now, I will say, one of the movies that you have gotten the most audience interaction on was one that you do not like very much, but
No.
that that you have gotten some definite interaction with the fans.
Yeah, we had a okay, but my videos were not that popular. Maybe 20 views. I had a couple dedicated viewers. You were one of them. My mother, one of my students, and one of the last co-host, Blake, who was one of my students and did one of the last ones with me. He was a dedicated viewer. But for the most part, it was a fairly small audience. A couple of them did do fairly well. My review of The Spinning Man got over 1,000. A couple of the Abbott and Costello ones, I reviewed the entire Abbott and Costello filmography.
Right.
That got a couple, but the one that this past year got the most was a film called Love and Kearney,
And you
which I completely bashed because I hated it. And man, oh man, did the fans of that movie come at me. Oh my lord, I did not know that Love and Kearney had
a rabid fan
a
base.
rabid fan base. Oh my, I thought Star Wars fans were toxic. Jeez, these people they insulted everything about me in my review.
That's okay.
So
You need to have a passion.
that's right. But anyway, so the goal of this is to do what we do. We love going to the movies. That's our favorite date night. We love talking about movies, and we're just going to ramble about movies, and hopefully you will enjoy our takes on them, or just our witty back and forth, our witty banter, as it
We
were.
are super adorable.
We are. We're very cute. We're a very cute couple. So yeah, that's kind of an abbreviated history of Drive Home.
Abbreviated, 12-minute long abbreviated.
I'll throw in
history.
before we move on. I'll throw this in. If you are listening to this, you like what you're hearing, of course, always please subscribe. We're looking to do that. But if you want to find the back catalog, it's all still there on YouTube. Reviews, best end of the year lists, editorials. There's a library of reviews there. So if you like what you hear, and
there's an Alexandria library.
Yeah, there is an Alexandria library. So if you like what you hear and you want to check out some of the back catalog, go check those out. But that's the past. We want to look forward to the future.
All right, let's get into our first review.